my plants often to manipulate how they'll grow. Because I like nice, even, Steven plants like this one. This one's called a Paraíso Verde, and they can get quite large. I think I might have shown you this one last time. I was very excited about it because it's new. It has these lovely heart-shaped leaves. They can get over 2 feet long. They can get to be like the size of a person in the wild. Of course, as a houseplant, they'll probably not do that. But this one's been quite happy with me so far. It's opened a new leaf. It's putting out some nice aerial roots. And it's going to put out another leaf at some point pretty soon. Loves a ton of light. I underestimated how much light it would enjoy. Much like this Anthurium Forgetti. There's a growth spike. So I have these two directly under the light that's up there, outside of the cabinet. Because they seem to be stretching towards it. Everyone's doing pretty good. Got a new little growth point on this one. It's been taking forever. I told her just to take her time. She's a good lesson in patience. If you want a lesson in patience, though, you should grow Hoyas because they grow excruciatingly slowly. Look at this tiny leaf. These tiny leaves, their fuzz and their pendicles. Just reaching. Can you imagine, like, this tiny leaf turning into this? And that's a very fuzzy, delicate leaf. And look at this. These are like cardboard. They're so tough. Hoyas are called also wax plants with good reason. There's so many different kinds of Hoyas. It's really neat. And something that people enjoy doing and that I've just started kind of experimenting with is something called sun stressing. So in normal light or lower light, this Hoya is called a Hoya rosita. Looks like this. Just green, pretty leaves. But when you add a little sun stress, which just means you put it close to the light, it starts to take on it's taking on these black margins, and I'm loving it. So I have that, as you can see, pretty close to the grow light, as I do these guys. Because again, these are just plain old green. This one might actually even be burning. Yeah, that one's burning. It's too hot by that light. So that's about as close as you want to put anything to that light. So I'll move that down. It's hot too. But so the one I just showed you, this guy right here, is the same plant as this one here. But you can see the drastic difference in color when you add a little sun stress. And the sun stress adds to it adds to the beauty of the plant and therefore to the desirability of it. Here I have what is called a couple of nodes. It's a common method of propagating plants. It's basically just a stem cutting, but the stems of this monstera start to put out aerial roots. There we go. And I just bury the aerial roots. I keep it moist. It's dry now. No, it's still pretty good. Keeping it in relatively high humidity and hoping that it will pop out plants from each bump. So one there and one there, hopefully, if I play my cards right. It's called Anthurium Ace of Spades. It's a hybrid. As the plant gets bigger, its leaves will be almost black. And as you can see, it's misbehaving. Like, I'm calling this plant as being very naughty plant. It's putting out some pretty sweet aerial roots, which I approve of, but Anthuriums can be a little sprawly. So I have it faced currently away from the light as much as possible, so that in the hopes that it will turn back towards it. Look at how freaking wonky. Who does that? What is your deal? I don't know. Here. This air plant's in the way. relegate you to the old spot of whoever was there before. All right, let's see. Should I do this? With that yes? Because then it will start to do like that. Ugh, it's just so wonky right now. I don't even know what to do with it. How did I even have it? What was I attempting? Oh, this would be good because then this will swing around. Yes, and then this will come up, and then what I want these guys to do is start to burrow down. So I think that's a good position for it. That's about it for the cabinet. I guess now I will show you the warding case I have upstairs. The jewel in my crown, if you will. All right, hang tight. So I just pulled this out of one of my clothes containers. It's a pretty moldy dragon, but this is nice mold. That's like, it's mycelium. I'd eat that. That might be medicine. Like, don't eat mold though, really, unless you're like a scientist and you know what you're doing. I just thought that was neat. All I'm gonna do with this is rub it off, because that's a harmless mold. Look at, gone, just gone. And then I'll just give it a little rinse. See you later. Yes, so this is where I found said dragon, inside of this, it's a little asparagus fern. It's doing really well in here. It doesn't get a ton of light. It gets like some ambient light from the grow lights next to it. Like, I have it next to this shelf right here. So as you can see, it's not terribly bright. They tell you to gauge light, they do something called the shadow test. So basically, if you're based on what kind of shadow the plant is casting is about how much light it's getting. So this would probably be considered medium low light. That's where I keep my tree. And someone was kind enough to exchange, I did a plant exchange, and someone drew a portrait of my Calathea Warszawski. So I put it right next to her, just so she knows how much I love her. She's actually, so she came from Oregon, because it was the only place I could find one of these. It's also called jungle velvet, because the leaves are incredibly soft. And it's put out a couple of new leaves, one of which did get grow light damage, so I moved it away from the grow light and in this west facing window, and it seems pretty happy. And it's putting out another leaf, but the plant overall is not supposed to look like that. The leaves are supposed to be a little more upright, so I'm hoping over time she just gets used to her digs and becomes happy again. So I wanted to show you actually another couple of, like, technically cases that I have. Again, Scindapsus exotica. I put this front piece in here about a month ago. I haven't watered it. I added, so all that's on the bottom here is charcoal and sand 50-50 and pine bark mulch on top. And I wet the pine bark mulch and then squeezed it out, so it was just damp, and I haven't watered it. And it's been in there a month, and it's just starting to put out this leaf. So since it's all like foggy in there, like it's literally raining in the jar, which means humidity is 99-100%, I'm gonna leave this jar top off for a while so it has a chance to breathe. What I don't want is the leaf to stick to the side, because then the leaf will rot. That's not what I want. So then the other day, like 5 days ago now, I threw in another piece. And because the hole is so small, like I can kind of get my hand in there, but I couldn't get it in well enough to submerge the roots without hurting the other piece. So I just threw it in there and said to hell with it. And so it started putting out these are water roots. So you can see the difference between the terrestrial ones. See how thin and covered with dirt they are? And the water roots that are white and fuzzy, just really gorgeous. And you can see it starting to make its way down the side of the jar. Oh yeah, so I'll leave that off. This is a rehab project. I'm not really sure if it's gonna make it. But I gave it this higher humidity in the hopes that it would. Oftentimes, plants that suffer from root rot actually recover best in water. It's just totally counterintuitive. Here's an example of that. It's a Pothos mandula cutting I've had forever. And as you can see, it's suffered rot in several places. And it hasn't done anything for me in dirt, but I just leave it in water and it's doing just fine. And the third leaf looks like it's going to unfurl at some point. So I just let it do its thing, you know, can't fuss too much. This is a Cissus amazonica, and I got it from a local plant friend who gave it to me as just an unrooted cutting. It was just this one leaf this is an original leaf that it came with, and on this vine. And so I just laid it in dirt and kept it really humid, and it starts growing from the nodes, just straight up these new vines. It's a climbing plant, and pretty soon it will take over this entire jar, hopefully. I just have it in like a little cloche that I got from IKEA, and I don't have to leave that. I open it once a day, but I don't have to leave it open because this one just loves humidity, so good there. And this is an epiphytic type of fern. It's called a staghorn fern, or Platycerium bifurcatum. There's a bunch of different kinds of species that grow in different ways, but I'm kind of experimenting with this. I'm trying to find the best way to grow this plant. People mount them. I do have one that is mounted that's doing pretty well. I also have one in a hanging basket that's doing tremendously. So what I've experimented with here is I filled the jar mostly with pine bark mulch, and then I did a really good solid 2 to 3 inch layer of coconut coir. And then the plant itself, the roots are very shallow because it is, again, epiphytic. So the plant basically just sits on top of the coir. And this brown spot is definitely from overwatering. So there was a bit of a learning curve there, but you can see it's putting out new growth. And these kinds of ferns put out 2 different kinds of growth. So they put out this flat growth, which are called their shield fronds. They protect the roots. And then they just put out the regular, like more leaf-like fronds. And as they get older, they get deep furrows in them, lending to the name staghorn, because that's eventually what they begin to look like. So I keep the pine bark mulch moist, and then the coir, which dries out very quickly and easily, wicks it up to the plant to keep it perpetually moist. Seems to be working okay. Pardon my mess. I'll show you the other 2 ferns. Today was actually bath day. It's pretty dry now, but yeah, so you can see this one is still a juvenile, but it's starting to get some of those nice furrows. It's currently working on a new shield. When I got it, it didn't have any shields. That's not a good sign, because they really need those to protect their fragile roots. Nice. It's my trophy buck. And then, well, here's actually my trophy buck. This is a one that's I think I've had this almost a year now. I got it at Cataldo's. It was the only one there. I was obsessed. And like, just look at those shield fronds, would you? Oh, gorgeous. Killing me. Growing out, putting out new growth all the time. Just loves it. Look, I barely have it in anything. And it's literally orchid bark, which is just wood. Like, just wood chips in there. This is a self-watering basket. It's plastic. I got it from Amazon. So it sits in the little cache pot. And then once a week, in the winter, once every 2 weeks, I take it down. I put it in the sink, and then I just let water run all over it, because when you look at them in their natural environment, they grow on trees, like just right on the side of the tree, like someone stuck them on there. And the the long fronds kind of just grow up and out and cascade down, and they can get huge. And the shield is what kind of attached to the tree. So like if you can imagine, right under these shield fronds is like the tree on the side. And so they get their water when it rains, and so it trickles down the back and gets their roots. But it's also very important that it gets it on its fronds too, because the leaves are actually where it is able to absorb most of the water, because again, the roots are so shallow. Then I just have some propagation projects and some air plants and my lucky bamboo. It's been working so far. So my son and husband are playing Cuphead in the next room, and my daughter is having tablet time behind me. So you might be able to hear some ambient noise. I'm in my bedroom, and this is my favorite Mordian case. It was a Facebook Marketplace find. It does come with a stand, but it's leaded glass with this beautiful wire filigree and this nice carved cast bottom that's like some kind of resin, which makes it waterproof, so it won't deteriorate over time. So the top just lifts off like this. And I just usually stick it on my bed while I look at all the pretties. Just hang out there. And then this is what I have in here. And they're mostly orchids. They're mostly all orchids with a few exceptions. So I'll just go through them one by one because I love them. And they all deserve their own special attention. So this is not an orchid. This is a carnivorous plant. It's called a pinguicula. And right at the top there, you can see a little fungus gnat, because that's what they eat. They eat fungus gnats, and they get stuck to, I don't know if you can see very well, but they have those hairs on them, and they're also very like sticky and slimy. So if a bug should happen to land on them, it's very easy for them to catch them and for the bug not to be able to escape. So I keep that in there, and it keeps the bugs away. So thank you, little penguin. This one is a favorite of mine. Like, will you just look how gorgeous this is? These are called jewel orchids, and the reason they're called jewel orchids is because they shimmer. It's really hard to catch their iridescence on camera, but a lot of them look like they just have straight lightning going through their veins. I find them fascinating. Silveriness. So this one is an Ectochilus, which is a hybrid Reinwardtii. And you can see it's putting out a new root. So I waited to make this video to do this so I could show you what I do. I would like to encourage that root to grow more. So I'm just gonna borrow moss, or rob Peter to pay Paul, or whatever it is. And I'm just gonna stick, just very loosely, stick this moss around this new forming root. Because in doing that, it will encourage the plant to put down more roots and maybe reproduce, and then I'll have some more jewels to share with people. A lot of these orchids are endangered, if not extinct, in the wild. It's illegal to ship them from their native habitats. So the way that they're often produced and sold in the United States is through lab tissue culture, which is an intricate process that requires, of course, like lab conditions and sterility, which, if you've seen my floor, is not my forte. Here we have, you see just the tiniest bit of new growth on this. It's called a blue oil fern. I don't know if you can see in the light, it has a blue iridescence. I thought it was a goner, so I put it in here because I know it likes a lot of humidity. and just kind of gave it a little bit of moss. And it's just very slow going, but it's alive. And so I'm just gonna let it do its thing. This is a vanilla orchid. It's a variegated vanilla orchid. So it has these very pretty stripes on its leaves. This is actually, they're pretty easy growers, surprisingly. I thought it would be like super hard, but they're really good epiphytes. They just hang out, throw out new roots. And then this will start to grow straight up. And as it grows straight up, it will want more to hold on to. I had a regular one that I ended up selling, but I just had it on a bamboo stake, and the roots were just wrapped around the bamboo stake, and it wasn't even attached in the dirt anymore. So it basically lives on nothing. This was one that, you can see my cat ate this leaf off, ate the very top leaf off, which is not good because that could kill the plant, but instead it's putting out a new leaf, so I think that's going to be okay. This is my pride and joy. It's a Begonia Julau. They thrive in terrarium environments. Most begonias you can grow pretty much in ambient conditions, but this one needs the humidity. And it also needs relatively low light to maintain this pink iridescence. So it's putting out a new leaf. I'm so happy. It came to me with 2 leaves. It has since lost one. So this is the original one that I grew since I've had it, and the other one on its way. This one's my favorite. It's so pretty. It's like black and pink. This one, look at that. Wow. Like, it has like marbling on its leaves. It's crazy. And the thing about these two is like their flowers are not terribly showy. Ooh, look at that nice root. They're grown mainly for foliage, so that makes it fun for people who are intimidated by regular orchids, because it's difficult. It can be difficult to get them to flower. These ones are just for foliage, and if they flower, it's just kind of like, they don't really add anything, but it's nice. It lets you know you're on the right track. So it's funny. This is a Ludesia discolor, and this is a Ludesia discolor. So technically these are the same plant. This is just Alba variegata. And when something is Alba variegata, it usually means it's what's called a sport variegation. And what sport variegation is it's a spontaneous chimera, which means that, you know, they grow a bunch of seedlings, or they grow a bunch of, if they start a bunch of plants from seed, like one in every so many comes out as a chimera in some way. So this sprouted out of a seed or something like that. So it's a spontaneous mutation. And they say it's a sport mutation if you can then take cuttings from that plant and propagate them, and then they keep the variegation. So that's what albo-variegated means. Some variegations can be stable. This is a stable mutation, meaning that it will never revert to looking like this. Whereas there are some plants, and I can show you an example of this too before we go, that can start to revert back to the original form of the plant. This was also one that my cat chomped it right up there, jerk face. And then it's just like, you know what, I'll just put out a new growth point on the side here. How's that? I'm like, that's cool with me. It looks like it's going to put out some roots too. But yeah, these are my babies. I have a vine here. I'm not sure if it's going to live. Some Magrevia. They're supposed to be terrarium plants. I think it was just in a little bit too much of shock. It was shipped to me. And then remember the Cissus amazonica I showed you downstairs in the cloche? This little viney boy is a Cissus discolor that threw an absolute fit at the beginning of winter. It was coming on fine. I've grown them before with success in the same conditions, and then winter came along and it it just started dropping leaves and the stem started drying out and it looked overall very miserable. So I unrooted it, I clipped off all the dead leaves, and now I just have it laying here in sphagnum. And see, these are the nodes. Some of them may be spent, which means that they won't produce anything new, but I have at least one viable node, and you can see the start of growth there. So, and that looks like it has potential too, and that's where the roots are buried as well. So I'm hoping that some of the other nodes will put out growth, but even if they don't, I have one success. And I think as long as it's getting this nice east-facing light with the humidity, should be good to go. All right, let me show you that chimera, and then I'll see you later. I just reconfigured my stairs, and like I love walking downstairs and looking at this. My pretty little mid-century deer with variegated peperomia and a Setenthe amagris that I'm super proud of. Not a crispy leaf on her. Dedication. And then this ficus, which is actually in quarantine on its own floating shelf because I just treated it for scale. It was badly infested with scale. Scale is like almost exactly what it sounds like. It's a scale-like insect. And I've been checking it every day, but it was hard to spot initially because these little like twig bumps that just look like twig bumps, that are just twig bumps, that's also what scale looks like. It looked just like twig bumps, so I had no idea. It was just absolutely covered in these weird bugs. And they're sapsuckers, yellow-bellied sapsuckers. So they, yeah, that's damage from them. They make these little like, there was one leaf that really had it and probably picked out. Oh no, here it is. They make these like little, almost like bullseyes on the leaf, and it's because they attach themselves and they start sucking all the juices out of the leaves, and they'll slowly kill the plant that way. So it's got some damage, but it's gonna make a good recovery. It's very pretty ficus. Ficus can be fussy. They just like a lot of humidity. They don't like to be dry. And there's Pooch Face. And then this is my favorite little chambered nautilus planter. Again, Freddie, William, Cullen, Bryant fans. With the seaweed plant. Well, it's a snake plant, but it looks like seaweed. Oh, I love this one. Anyway, to the chimera. So, okay. Yeah, chimeras. This is called a philodendron Birkin, and it is a sport variegation of a plant called a philodendron rojo Congo, or Congo rojo. And the Congo rojo looks a lot like this plant. It's got red stems, and it's got it's usually in its normal version, much larger cupped leaves that also have a more reddish tinge. So these are starting to become available in big box stores. You can probably get one at Home Depot for like, I don't know, $12 or so. When they first came out, they were a little more expensive. I never found one that I liked until I saw this one. And why did I think this one was special? Well, because from this, you get from this plant, you get a spontaneous mutation that looks like this. That's insane, right? You think you're growing this, and you get this, all right? So then they separate that plant out, and they try to grow it and see if it will continue throwing out variegation, which the Birkin does. It was thought to be pretty stable. But as these plants, they're pretty new. So as these plants have started to mature, people have noticed all kinds of strange things happening. And one of those strange things can be that it starts to revert back to Rojo Congo. And people deal with reversions of variegated plants in different ways. It's said that if you cut back the plant to where it starts to lose the variegation, then hopefully that will encourage the plant that will tell the plant to kind of keep putting out the variegation and not the other kind of leaves. But what else can happen is, I don't know what the technical term is, but I just call it progressive variegation, where the plant just continues to throw out the mutation exponentially. So when I got this one, the lowest leaf looked like this, which is already a really good amount of variegation. This is like what you want your Birkin to look like, a mature leaf on your Birkin to look like. And then I noticed, like, this leaf is gorgeous. It's just got gorgeous variegation. This is like what I would consider to be an ideal specimen, which is why I wanted it. But also why I wanted it, and chose this one eventually, was I noticed this striping on the stems. And when you look at variegated plants, you'll often notice, like I showed you the elbow nodes, the stems are stripy. So in variegated plants, the variegation goes all the way down to the stems. And so you can see at the bottom here, not stripy at all. But then as the plant started growing more, it's getting these like these stems look like candy canes. So I kind of had the inkling that this might be a progressively variegating Birkin. And so this is one of the last leaves. And it's hardened, so this will not get any darker. So as you can see, it's significantly lighter than the leaf just before it. They all start out kind of white, but then they get darker. But they usually finish hardening off before they open their newest leaf, which is this one. So this newest leaf that's coming out has this weird splotch. It's almost pinky red in color. So that is, technically it's called a reversion, because it's trying to revert back to Rojo Congo. But there is enough of the original mutation now. You see the white mutation, there's enough of that mutation that in order to revert, it's going to have to go through all of these interesting little splashes. So now it's got this new leaf poking out of this stripy stem, and I'm just so excited to watch this plant grow and to see what kind of variegation it decides to throw out. So my newest thing has been, since they become so much more widely available, is to look for these weirdo Birkins. So last week I went to Lyman Estates. They have a wonderful greenhouse there. It's in Waltham. If you haven't been, you should really go. They have super cheap plants, super interesting specimen plants to look at in their greenhouse. There's usually no one there, just you and the guy or the woman who's keeping it at the moment. I will warn you, they don't use pesticides. So I did get a spider plant that was infested with scale. I've got mealybugs from there. But these pests are not difficult to deal with if you know what to look for. So just check your plants for pests when you bring them home. That's just good practice. So this Birkin I found at Lyman. And as you can see, it's got nice variegation on this part. They all kind of start out just like this. It's very mild, and then as the plant matures, it comes out more. But then, so this is also showing that stripy stem, but look at this side of the plant. It's even hard for me to tell if it is the same plant. I do believe that it is a Birkin. Like they kind of just look like they maybe grew from the same roots and divided, but this looks like straight Rojo Congo. The stems are either red or green, and there is just very little variegation to them at all. So yeah, this leaf actually just hardened off. When I first got the plant, the leaf was orange. like a deep ochre. Yeah, like kind of like the vein color right there. So maybe like an olive green. So I'm curious to see what I'm gonna get from this plant. That's gonna be interesting. And again, I may choose to cut it back and encourage it to variegate that way. So that's my spiel about variegation. And it's a fascinating and wide topic and hotly debated in the plant world. So I'm sure you were riveted, just on the edge of your seat. Thank you for joining me for the Great Indoors. Bye.